Hey everybody, it's Mike. Can you hear me okay? It's Mike, I'm back, and I'm going to do another show about this Hare Krishna cult, and I'm going to explain exactly why it's a pedophile cult. And it's not just in my mind, it actually is. And I'm going to show you why it is. And I'm going to start with, easy enough, I'm going to start with a victim of this cult in her own words, and then we'll go from there. So let's get right into this show.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, so let's see now. I'm going to read to you uh, a victim's story in her own words. This, you hear exactly what she has to say. I don't know this person, never met this person, I have nothing to do with this person. This is on the internet. Um, this is on this webpage, this Hare Krishna webpage, where he simultaneously criticizes ISKCON and yet uh, praises the guy who founded ISKCON. So, figure that one out. Okay, he's critical of the cult, but he praises the guy who created the cult, which only in their disgusting, sick minds does that make any sense. But so anyway, he here in this article he talks about how this guy, I don't know what he did. This guy, I don't know what he does. I guess he borrows money or he loans money, and then he abuses devotees. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I have no idea what that's all about. But he documents all kinds of crazy things that goes on in the Hare Krishnas, and this is his webpage where he keeps track of it. And like I said, even though he criticizes the Hare Krishnas, he very much is a Hare Krishna, and he promotes the Hare Krishna cult. He promotes the books, he promotes the guru, he promotes Prabhupada, he promotes whoever he wants to promote. Um, and then he criticizes everybody who doesn't agree with anything that he says. But anyway, he does a good job documenting all the craziness in ISKCON, including his own psychosis, his own paranoia, and his own delusions of grandeur. So, as you can see, it says here, they were selling drugs. I don't know. But he does document everything. And here he has a story about a girl who was abused in the Hare Krishnas. I'm going to read what it says because I just saw this. Now, this is from Henry Doktorsky. He's a Hare Krishna who was in the Hare Krishnas a long time, and he was I don't know. I guess he was with some dubious characters, but he ended up writing some books and making some documentaries about the crazies in the Hare Krishna. Now, I don't know where he stands. I believe he's still a Hare Krishna, and again, he's one of these guys who criticizes people in the cult, but he doesn't criticize the cult for creating these people. The cult is responsible for creating all of these nuts because they weren't nuts before. Hey, Danielle Noriega, Lee, how you going? Good afternoon to you. Good to see you. So, this is a story that was related to him while he was doing his documentaries about ISKCON. So, it says here, hey, how you doing? Hey, that's I'm not anything like that, but we're going to talk about gurus. We're going to talk about gurus because that's the biggest That's the reason why this whole pedophile thing exists. So it says here, February 12th, 2014, on this date in history, 11 years ago, during an interview for Gold, Guns, and God, a New Vrindavan Gurukuli alumni tells the author that a 38-year-old school headmaster raped her when she was 9 years old. And so here's the story. I used to live at the New Vrindavan community. I don't remember how I got there. I don't remember my natural parents. I heard I was about 1 or 2 when I got there. People told me. I went to school there and lived in the girls' ashram. Mother Kutila, Kuladri's wife, wasn't really a mother, but she was the closest thing I had to a mother. Okay, so that first paragraph is totally like traumatizing. She grew up in this ashram. She doesn't even know who her parents were. Her earliest memory is just being in this thing, like orphanage, basically like an orphanage. Except her parents weren't dead. They just stuck her in this place so they could go play Krishna. So they could go play Hare Krishna. They wanted to go sell books somewhere in Florida or New York or LA or India or Spain or London or wherever they wanted to go. Otherwise, why would you stick your kid in a school in New Vrindavan, in West Virginia? Why are you sticking your kid in a boarding school in West Virginia? Why does your kid need to go to a boarding school? You can't take care of your kid? No, they can't take care of their kid. Because they got no income, they got no anything. They're playing Hare Krishna. They're dressing up like a friggin' 16th century cross-dressing, transgendered Mahaprabhu, whatever you want to call him, and then they're bouncing around, and they don't have time to take care of their kid. Where'd they get that idea from? Where do parents get the idea that you can take your kid at 2 years old or 1 year old and just stick them in a friggin' Krishna temple somewhere and go bounce off and go play? And that was normal. This is the normal thing that was going on. This wasn't like, that was the exception. No, these kids. How do you think all these kids got in these schools and got abused? They certainly didn't ask to be put in the school. Not at 1 or 2 years old. She didn't even know who her parents were. I heard I was about 1 or 2 when I got there, and like nobody else knows. Just another little kid that just showed up one day. We don't know who your parents are, or we don't know when you got here. There's no record of anything. They can't go look in a book and go, yeah, your parents are this, and you got dropped off on this day. Nothing. How friggin' irresponsible is that? It's not like it was like 1935. This is like 1979 or something. This is insane. That's why I'm saying if people knew this girl's story, you'd think they would join these fucking freaks. If this is the kind of thing that they think is normal, the same shit's going on today. All I read was that she doesn't know where. She's in a friggin' ashram in West Virginia in the mountains in some Krishna temple. She didn't even know how she got there. Or when she got there. This is not some village in Nepal. or somewhere in Uzbekistan somewhere. This is in the United States of America, in West Virginia. And who knows where she was born? She could be from L.A., from Dallas, from New York City, from wherever. But she's 1 year old. She's in a friggin' mountain in West Virginia in a friggin' ashram. Okay, she goes on. During 1981-1983, Manihar was headmaster of the school. He told me he would be my father because the parents that I just had, who had been taking care of me, had abandoned me. So he adopted me. He was going to be my father. This is getting sick really fast. Here we go. Next paragraph. I mean, a trigger warning if you're. He would take me to his house on the weekends sometimes. He molested me from 1982 to 1983. He would undress me and put me to sleep and tell me that he loved me and that he would never do anything to hurt me. What a fucking sick. What a sick fuck. But he would fondle and play with me all night. He touched me all over. I was about 9. He was about 38. And then the author says, in the interest of accuracy, Amani Har, born in 1953, died in 2009, was about 29 or 30 years old. But she was 9 years old. She didn't know. Once he took me to Los Angeles. So this is all happening in the United States. This is not happening somewhere else. She was born in the United States. She ends up in West Virginia in New Vrindavan in a friggin' Krishna commune at 2 years old. Now some guy, some 30-year-old man is going to adopt her. Adopt her. Meanwhile, he's molesting her every night. Once he took me to Los Angeles. He took me to Los Angeles with him, and one night we were staying in his apartment, and the whole night he was sticking his fingers in me, and he put me on top of him, and he was rubbing my body against his, and I felt a very sharp pain, and when I woke up in the morning there was blood everywhere. It wasn't my period. I didn't get my first period until 2 years later. Now, where did this guy get the idea? I don't mean to make fun of this or laugh or anything, but it's driving me crazy. Where did the guy get the idea that this is acceptable or normal or spiritual or Krishna conscious? I mean, what kind of friggin' game are they playing with their own friggin' minds? I'm on a spiritual path. I'm wearing spiritual clothes. I got my head shaved. I'm reading these books. I'm getting up 4:30 in the morning. I'm doing all this spiritual stuff, and yet I still feel like I can go molest a 9-year-old girl and adopt her to be my sex slave. Where do they get that idea? Where does they get that idea? He doesn't think this is wrong at all. He just raped this girl, 9-year-old girl. Hey, Rune, how you doing? How you doing, man? It's rough. Where did he get the idea that you can? He's on a spiritual path. He's trying to be a spiritual person. He's chanting, and he's beads, and he's got tulsi mala around his neck. He's got tilak on his head. He's laying down in front of the deity. Oh, deities, oh, Sri Krishna. And then he's molesting the little girl. I'm going to tell you why. Because he doesn't think it's wrong. He doesn't think it's wrong because Prabhupada was 22 and his wife was 11. And Prabhupada laughed about it. Prabhupada did the same thing he did. I had Dhamma Ghosh in Washington try to convince me that 11-year-old girls were perfect for getting married. I'm like, where are these people getting? I hadn't figured it out yet. I'm like, where are these people getting this idea that little girls can be married to grown men, and that it's perfectly normal, it's perfectly okay, it's acceptable, it's defendable, it's promoted? Where? Well, it's in Prabhupada's books. You just have to read them. It's in the books. It's in the lectures. Dhamma Ghosh got mad at me when I said no, 11-year-old girls are not, they should not be getting married. And he got mad at me because that goes against Prabhupada. It goes against Prabhupada. It goes against what Prabhupada did. It goes against what Prabhupada says. You can't go against Prabhupada. You can't go against the founder of this cult. You can't. So you got to blame it on someone else. You got to blame it on Manihar. He's the bad guy. He came into the cult. He was a child predator, came into the cult, and then started molesting kids. No. I mean, maybe. But you're going to tell me that you're going to tell me that a child molester, a child predator is going to join a Krishna cult and go through all the crap that a Krishna, all the getting up at 4 a.m, shaving your head, just so they can get a hold of some kids? They can get a hold of kids anywhere. There are child molesters everywhere in life. In schools, teachers are molesting kids. Coaches are molesting kids. Not every coach, not every teacher. You don't. Child molesters do not have to join the Hare Krishnas to be a child molester. No, they get in there, they read these books. How Prabhupada is perfect. Prabhupada is perfect. He makes no mistakes. Everything he says is perfect. It's perfect, perfect, perfect. His books are the law books. Everything he says is law. That somehow in the future, after the apocalypse and the nuclear war, when they're rebuilding society, Prabhupada's books are going to be the law books for the next 10,000 years. And everything in Prabhupada's books is exactly how we're going to rebuild society. Exactly according to Prabhupada's books. If they can do it now, they'll do it now. They're trying to do it now. But Prabhupada said after the thing that's when it's really going to happen. So they're brainwashed into believing that Prabhupada is this guru. He's coming in this line from Krishna. Krishna to Brahma, to Narada, to Madhva, to Vyasadeva, to Madhva, to Yamuna, whoever. Jayatirtha, Yadanidhi, blah 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 ya. Who? These people didn't even exist. They're not even, they're like imaginary people. But he's coming down in this line. And Prabhupada's part of that line. So he's like God. So everything he says, if he says 11-year-old girls, 11-year-old girls. And don't argue with him. Prabhupada says 11-year-old girls. Before puberty, the guy raped the girl behind the stage at the Krishna. Where did he get the idea that he could just go molest a girl behind the Krishna stage at the Krishna festival? Where does this guy think that he could just adopt a 9-year-old girl, take her to LA in his apartment, and then have sex with her? Where are all these teachers in the Gurukula molesting these kids? When Prabhupada was here, where'd they get And then Prabhupada doesn't do anything about it. Because Prabhupada didn't give a shit. All Prabhupada cared about was selling his books and him being the next Pope of the world. That's all he wanted. That's all he cared about. Kids were a problem to him. They were in the way. He didn't give a shit about kids. So Prabhupada doesn't give a shit about the kids. Why should anybody else give a shit about the kids? Prabhupada didn't care about the kids. Why can't I drop my kids off at the Gurukula and go play Hare Krishna like Prabhupada did? Half the gurus were married, and then they decided, you know what, I don't want to be married anymore. I want to be guru. So Prabhupada was like, yeah, I'm going to make you a guru or a sannyasi or whatever you want to call it. Who cares? I'm going to make you a guru, and you can go to South America and go preach. Just leave your wife, because that's what we do in the Hare Krishnas. And you got kids? Yeah, leave your wife and your kids. She'll take care of the kid. Who cares? She go move into a temple. Put the kid in the school. He didn't care. He didn't care. He didn't see people having a loving relationship, a man and a wife having a loving relationship, having a kid and raising a kid as a family, as a unit, and all of that. No, he didn't give a shit about that. He didn't give a shit about kids. He didn't give a shit about women. He didn't give a shit about anybody but himself selling his friggin' books. He didn't care that he made some of the worst people in the world gurus and gave them power over people. Encouraged them to scam people and exert power over them and bully them and manipulate them. That's all he did. While creating a friggin' pedophile cult, where pedophiles were never turned in, they were never prosecuted. Let me go on, because so she goes on. Years later, after Manohar had left New Vrindavan, I realized that he wasn't being my daddy, but he was molesting me. So it took her years to realize what's going on, because she doesn't have no education. She doesn't know anything. People talk about, sex education in schools, kids learning about sex in school and whatever, right? Kids need to learn shit. This is a perfect example where these kids are not taught anything about sex. They're not taught anything about adolescence, about puberty, about growing up, about where babies come from. Can you imagine growing up not knowing where babies come from because no one's told you and you've never asked? And so she was 9 years old when he raped her. She didn't get her period 2 years later. She was 11. Okay, so years later. So let's say it's more than 1 years. Years later, I realized he wasn't being my dad. He was molesting me. So she was like about 11 years old. So when she was about 11 years old, she's 11 years old. She doesn't even know that he's molesting her. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know that he's touching her inappropriately. He's a grown man. He shouldn't be doing that. That she's a young girl. That she doesn't even know that it's sexual. She doesn't know what's going on because she's never had sex education. She's never had any probably no education. She probably can look at a map, can't even tell you where a friggin' country is. She goes on, we had a substitute teacher, a devotee, come in one time, and she talked about child abuse. And at that time, I had never remembered. I completely had put this whole part of my life out of my mind. And when she started to talk about it, I started to remember what happened, and I just started crying. I ran out of the classroom, and my friend saw me, and she came out and she said to me, "Were you molested?" And I said, "Yes, I was." And she said, "So was I." It's a fucking disgusting cult. The fucking disgusting pedophile cult. She goes on. She goes on. Um, I personally faced him, Manihar, in England in 2004. I want to show you what I'm reading. I'm not making this up. I'm reading this off of a Hare Krishna webpage. I personally faced Manihar in England in 2004. It was the most healing venture of my life, besides finding my real family a few years later. She went all that time and didn't know who her family was, and no one could tell her. I hunted his ass because he never admitted his actions, and I had a real problem with that. Manihar's son was like a brother to me, and he often sided with his dad's innocence in our conversations. So one year, me and his son were on the phone, and I told him I wanted to know where his dad was. He was hesitant and didn't think his dad would be happy about it, but gave me his grandmother's phone number in England, where Manihar was visiting at the time. I called him, and of course he was shocked, but his guilt was undeniably eating him alive, and he spoke very openly with me. I didn't trust his true admission of guilt on the phone only, and asked him to face me and his son in person. I bought a ticket to England, which Manihar gave me the money for. Once I was there, and we all sat outside his son's humble country home and hashed out years of turmoil. Manihar visited us for several hours and then left. I felt hundreds of pounds lifted from my heart and soul after that. All the years I'd spent envisioning his long, torturous death fell to the earth, disintegrating into a pile of disgust and even compassion, and he was nothing more than an old, fat, sick, sad, pathetic excuse of a man rotting in a wheelchair. She goes on, I am so happy Manihar is dead now. The world is absolutely a better place as a result. Okay. Let me just finish up real quick. The author says, Manihar left New Vrindavan in 1983 and then went to work as a teacher at the Bhaktivedanta Gurukul in Vrindavan, India. Manihar left the Vrindavan Gurukul apparently within a year, defected from ISKCON, became an Indian citizen, and in 1984 established the Street Kids Community Villages Children's Trust. In 1994, he wrote a manual on the proper care of street children, and in 2008, he received the prestigious annual award from the All India Rotary International for his outstanding services to children. Then it goes on with some other things, and then it says, Manihar was never prosecuted for his crimes against New Vrindavan children. He abused more than one, and today most people regard him as a savior of children, except for those very few who knew of his heinous crimes. Okay, so that right there is another very disgusting aspect of this whole thing. Because this guy was never turned in, he's a pedophile, serial pedophile. I mean, molested more than one child, more than one girl, raped this girl. I mean, he's a rapist. He raped this girl, and then abused other women, other girls too. And because he's never turned in, he's never caught, he's never prosecuted, he's never even arrested, he's never even the worst thing he had to do was face this girl. This guy belonged in jail, rotting in jail. The worst thing that happened to him was he had to face this girl face to face and pay for her airline ticket. That was the consequences of his actions. Is that she hunted him down and she made him apologize to her, to his face, and pay for her airline ticket to go over there. And it's like, so what? She still says he was a fat, sick, disgusting piece of shit. So he basically gets a whole lifetime. Not only does he get away with it, he gets to hide his crimes by claiming to be this Street Kids Community Villages Children's Trust. Like he's some children's guy. That's like the guy that was murdering kids pretending to be a clown. Well, they'll never suspect me. I'm a clown. I go to children's parties. I make children happy. I'm a clown. They'll never suspect me as being a serial killer. And they didn't. Until they found kids buried under his house. And they said, oh my God, this clown was a serial killer. All these missing kids that we were looking for. Buried under his house. The clown. This guy. How many kids did he molest? And you think he stopped molesting them just because he became the Street Kids Community Villages Children's Trust? And wrote a pamphlet on how to help kids? That's so fucking disgusting. If anybody knew what he had done, he never would have been the Street Kids Community Villages Trust. Who's going to trust him with their kids? He's talking about trust. That's fucking disgusting. He's winning awards. He's getting things and Mother Teresa and this and that. Because they don't know that he was molesting little girls. He's just one of many. Because it's a whole cult of these people. And they get away with it. Because they protect each other. Look at this. It says, Manihar was never prosecuted for his crimes against the New Vrindavan children, and today most people regard him as a savior of children, except those that very few that knew of his heinous deeds. His biography, which praises his glories, is titled A Different Road, The Remarkable Story of Matthew Norton. Remarkable story is right. What about the remarkable untold story? Fucking disgusting. Folks should not be in a pedophilic cult. Anyone can be spiritual without being brainwashed into a pedophilic cult full of hatred and abuse. Many Vaishnavas disagree with ISKCON and Freud. You got, yeah, I mean, if you're reading Prabhupada's books and you're distributing Prabhupada's books and you're praising Prabhupada's books and you think Prabhupada is some great saintly person, you're brainwashed. You're brainwashed. You need to go back and start watching my videos from the very first one and get caught up on everything. If you're praising this guy and you're distributing his books and you're telling the world what a great guy this Prabhupada guy was, this guy who was 22 years old when he raped an 11-year-old girl, and then put in his books that 11-year-old girls make the best wives of gopis, these 11-year-old girls, and that prepubescent girls should be married to 24-year-old men. And women are less intelligent and women like to be raped. You're distributing these books. You are spreading this bullshit. Child marriage, you're promoting, you're distributing these Bhagavad Gitas where Prabhupada says right in the first chapter that women are less intelligent. That women are less intelligent? Anybody hand me a Bhagavad Gita, I'm going to open right up and go, what's this about women being less intelligent? And then they're going to feed me some bullshit about, well, that's in the scripture coming from Krishna. Krishna says. It's not Prabhupada saying it. Well, why is Prabhupada repeating it? If Prabhupada doesn't agree with it. It's exactly Prabhupada's argument. When someone would repeat something and say, well, it's in the Bible. That's not me. It's in the Bible. And Prabhupada would say, well, then why are you repeating the Bible? If you're using the Bible as an authority, but then you're saying you don't, then why are you repeating? So why is Prabhupada repeating this racist, sexist crap? If it's coming from Krishna, why doesn't he reject it? Why didn't he reject his 11-year-old wife? Why didn't he just say, you know what, I'd rather be celibate my whole life? No, he tells his followers that they should be celibate their whole life. But he couldn't turn down an 11-year-old girl when it was offered to him when he was 22. He wasn't turning that down. How did that help his spiritual life? How was that helping his spiritual life? If you go to this page, vedabase.com, you can type in, I typed in, my wife was 11. If you don't know to type that in, nobody would know. If I'm not telling you to type that in, who's going to go and type in, my wife was 11? I married, my wife was 11 years old. All these places where Prabhupada talks about how he married his wife when she was 11 years old. My wife was 11 years old. He couldn't say no. Just say no to 11-year-olds. He couldn't do it. And all these places where he's just talking about child marriage. Disgusting. And then if you want to look up, you can go here and you can type in, where is it? Here, where is it? Whoops. Every girl is supposed to be married. That is the Vedic system. A father's duty is that as soon as a girl is grown up, she must be married. But grown up is 11 years old. But I'll say in our childhood age, my sisters were married between 9 to 12 years. My eldest sister was married when she was 9 years old, before my birth. She is the eldest. My second sister was married at age of 12 years. And my third sister was married at the age of 11 years. So by 12 years, the marriage must be finished. That was the duty of the father. So he's saying that not because it was bad. He's saying it because that's the way he wants it, and that's the way it should be. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.51, if you want to look it up. He also says polygamy is allowed. He says another difficulty is that everywhere all over the world the female population is greater than, on the average, than male population. So if each and every woman has to be married, then there is no sufficient number of males population. Therefore, according to Vedic rituals, those who are higher caste, just like the Kshatriyas or the Brahmanas especially, polygamy is allowed. Polygamy is allowed. And why? Scripture. Prabhupada says here, just like our most exalted personality, Krishna, he has married 16,000 wives. He is God. Unless you have got so many wives, how can you be God? Not that 16,000 wives, one wife is to be seen one day, so that the turn will come after 16,000 days. No, that is God. He expanded himself into 16,000 forms also, so that every wife was happy to live with the husband. Formerly, in our days, younger days, although the girl was married at an early age, she was not allowed to see her husband unless she is grown up fully. So you would think grown up fully, oh, she's grown up fully. They get married at an early age, and then they wait until they're grown up before they have sex. That's what you think, because that's what he says. But that's fully grown. Grown up fully is only 11 years old. Fully grown is 11 years old. So he says here, formerly in our days, younger days, although the girl was married at an early age, she was not allowed to see her husband unless she is grown up fully. Unless she has attained puberty, she is not. She lives with her parents, but she knows that I have got my husband. This consciousness is a great pleasure for women psychologically. What the fuck is that? He's saying, marry a young girl at 5, 6, 7 years old. Marry him off to an old man. And then it will psychologically create pleasure for that little girl to know that I've got this husband. A very nice system, he says. And when the girl grows up, puberty, not grows up, not 18, not 16, 17, 18. When she grows up to be 11, 12. That's when she's grown up. Then another ceremony is taken. That is almost like second marriage. The girl goes to her husband to live with her husband. This was the system. Now he's saying this was the system in the past. But what he's saying is that this is the system that he wants. This is the real system. He goes on in the next couple of verses where he talks about girls must be married by 16 years old to 24-year-old man. He says 16 and 24. Here he's saying puberty. So this is what I'm saying. This is a pedophile cult. It's in the books. You can't tell me. You can't tell me that doesn't say what it says. Excuse me. You can't say that doesn't say what it says. It's saying exactly that. 11-year-old girls, puberty, married by puberty. Some girls are married at 7 years old. Some at 8 years old. But when they reach 11, when they're fully grown at 11, puberty, as soon as they menstruate, they're ready to go. Marry them off. You can have sex with them. That is why Prabhupada says, my wife was 11 years old and I was 22. And I took her by the hand. It was time to go. And she cried. Because they were married. And he was waiting. She turned 11. She had her period. Let's go, baby. Time. It's time. And you go and you see all these Hare Krishnas from these devotees from Eastern Europe, from Russia, from Hungary, from Eastern European countries that didn't get Hare Krishna until later. That's like new territory for Hare Krishnas. Russia and Ukraine and Eastern Bloc countries that never allowed religion or strictly restricted religion and that type of stuff. And then after the fall of the Soviet Union, things opened up more, and Hare Krishnas were like, "Wah!" And they went in there and they started preaching and making money and opening temples and trying to create. And now you see a lot of Russians and Eastern European devotees. They don't know. A lot of this stuff has not been translated into their language. Only like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, some of the smaller books, some of the books. Not all the conversations and the lectures and the morning walks and all that stuff. Not all that stuff's been translated into every language. So they get the Bhagavad Gita and they get enough stuff in their language to brainwash them and get them in. But they don't learn about the pedophilia and a lot of this stuff because that information hasn't been translated into their language yet. I mean, I can go here and I can look this up in English, and on this page here, this Veda base, but you can play and hear this motherfucker talk.
Mo Bhagavate Vasudev. Especially those who are helpless. So, woman is protected in childhood by the father.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hear it. I guess you guys can't hear that, but I'd have to figure out how to get that to play for you guys. But yeah, you can actually hear him say these things. All this disgusting stuff that he says, it's all recorded. In Vietnam, there are lots of Russians and Eastern European Caucasian brainwashed devotees, fraud. Yeah, and they're all over. They're all over. And South America, too. There's a lot of South American devotees in L.A. and in the U.S. Because it's human trafficking. It's basically, they get them in on a religious visa or some kind of a education. They get them in on a visa, and they got them working in the temples, and they hold them hostage. And they say, if you I don't know what they do, but they have them come in, and then they move them around, and I don't know, overstay their visas, and then they have them like, oh, we got you now because you've overstayed, and I don't know. It's all really shady stuff. Because the people that do that stuff, like temple presidents and temple commanders and Sankirtan leaders and all these people that are in positions in temples, they abuse that power, and they know what's going on, and they know how to get people to do all that stuff, and they're shady people. They're the shadiest people. They rise up and get those positions, and it's disgusting, and that's why they protect each other. Nobody gets turned into the police. If there's a child, something happens at a temple, like for me, when something happened to my daughter, I went right to the police, and they freaked out. You're not supposed to go to the police. Why'd you go to the police? You're not supposed to go to the police. That was totally wrong. You're not supposed to go to the police. And then we became the bad people because we went to the police. So obviously we were the bad ones. We should have. So that as soon as we went to the police, everything is completely flipped. We went from being the victims to blame the victims simply for reporting it to the police. So, and because I didn't live in the community, there was only so much of that pressure that they could give me because I was outside. I wasn't living in their buildings or under their control in that way. So they didn't have control over me like in that way. And that's when they realized that, then they were like, you know what, we really don't want anything to do with you. Because you're not really one of us. Even though I was. Going to the police and then, not living in the community, because everybody else that lives outside the community, they don't have a problem. But if you live outside the community and you go to the police, well, then you're a problem. Because they didn't have control over me in that way. So, and I didn't have a guru. Because I didn't have a guru, they couldn't hold that over me. And because I wasn't officially in, they couldn't threaten to kick me out. So I was a problem. I was a problem for them when all that came down. But I didn't leave right away because I believed that it was a bad person had come into the movement. I mean, that's what you're saying, right? Bad people come in, do bad stuff. It's not the cult, it's bad people come. Then why can't I go to the police? Don't you want to stop bad people from coming in and doing bad stuff? Why wouldn't you go to the police? That makes no sense. Then when you research and you use this program and you research all these different things, connect all these dots, then you can see why. It makes sense. Why they don't report each other, why they protect each other, why they feel like they can get away with it, why they're so bold in their actions, why they don't care. Why do they feel like they're above everything? Because Prabhupada says they are. Prabhupada did it himself. If Prabhupada did it himself, plus he excused them, and he said don't go to the police, and he did all these things, then you gotta be that way too. It's like me. If I got to agree, I had to agree that 11-year-old girls that was fine, because that's what Prabhupada says. And if I don't agree to that, then I'm the enemy. You can't. It's kind of like how the political cult. Like you can't, if they say Gulf of America, you got to go along with it. You can't say that's going too far. Everything's a loyalty test. If we say Gulf of America, then you got to say Gulf of America too. If we say 11-year-old girls make the best wives, you got to say 11-year-old girls make the best wives too. It's a loyalty test. And if you can't pass that loyalty test, then we don't want to have nothing to do with you. In fact, you're the enemy. We can't trust you now. Well, they couldn't trust me. When I drew the line at the 11-year-old girls and breaking the guy out of jail, getting the pedophile out of jail. They finally arrest one. He goes to jail, and they bribe his. They figure out a way to bribe and get him free, and they think that's great. Hey, we got him out. We got him out of jail. No, he belongs in jail. What are you doing? Where do you get the idea that he doesn't belong in jail? Because 11-year-old girls make the best wives. Women are less intelligent. Women like to be raped. You put all that together and wrap it all up. Mix that all up in a bowl, put it in the oven, and hey, you got pedophilia. Women are less intelligent. Women like to be raped. You know how evil that is to say that women like to be raped? I mean, it's bad enough to just say that, well, women dress provocatively, so they're partially to blame. No, that's bad. That's a bad thing to say. But to say that women actually like to be raped, you're basically encouraging rape. You're saying women like it. You say women are less intelligent. You're saying women like to be raped. You're saying women should not be given any independence, which means they don't get to make their own decisions, right? So those three things, and then you got 11-year-old girls make the best wives, right? Then you got the fact that the guru was 22 years old when he raped his 11-year-old wife. Wasn't his wife? He's 11. You mix all that stuff together and cram it in your head, and then go chant Hare Krishna and worship this guy, and you're gonna end up raping some girl behind the stage at the festival. You're gonna end up adopting some 9-year-old girl, thinking that you're gonna be her father, and then you end up raping her in your apartment in Los Angeles on Watsika Avenue. Or you're gonna join this cult and have some kids and drop your kids off in a friggin' Gurukula and go off to fucking Barcelona to go chant Hare Krishna while your kid is getting raped in New Vrindavan or in India somewhere. That's what this cult is doing. That's what this cult is doing today. And they got the fucking nerve to march in the Martin Luther King Day parade. While they're talking about blacks should be in the jungles and never should have been given civil rights. And they want to go march in the Martin Luther King Day parade? So they can spread their books with this fucking pedophilia?
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
Who the fuck gave them the okay to march in the Martin Luther King Day parade? Who said who okayed that? This racist, sexist, pedophile cult has the permission to march in the Martin Luther King Day parade and spread their racist, sexist, child marriage, pedophilia, all that crap. They get to spread it around at the Martin Luther King Day parade? Books that say that blacks are third class drunkards? Let me remind you what Prabhupada says about the Negroes. He gave the Negroes freedom, Abraham Lincoln. He says it in a friggin' sarcastic, condescending way. The guy says, I think Abraham Lincoln was the greatest American president, thinking that Prabhupada, this spiritual leader, this great spiritual guy, would say, yeah, he was a great Abraham Lincoln. He says, he gave the Negroes freedom, didn't he? What a fucking disgusting piece of shit. Morning conversation. Prabhupada. And library means these Negroes will go to read? They'll go for drinking. Simply drunken Negroes, he says. Simply drunken Negroes, he says. Look at this. All the places where he said Negroes. Brahmananda, one of his top disciples, he turned him into a racist. He says, Brahmananda says, oh, the Negroes from Detroit, they are the fierce animals that come here at night. Morning conversation. Prabhupada says, these Negroes, they are, after all, simple. We have to claim them. They are very good behaving Negroes. Prabhupada says, the whites, they do not like the Negroes still. Wherever they go, wherever there are Negroes, in that quarter the whites do not go in. Is it not? They do not go. Yeah. The whites were racist and they didn't like the Negroes back then. You're right, Prabhupada. But you agree with that. Prabhupada agreed with that. I don't think in America that the American Negroes would be able to queue up and wait patiently. Room conversation. Prabhupada, a third-class Negro. This is going on. You'll find these things in Europe and America. A first-class car and a third-class Negro. That's all, is it not? So here you have Prabhupada just making so many racist comments. So many racist comments. Just, and it just goes on and on. My dear boys, even there is beauty amongst the Negroes, he used to say. So, oh, here he says, there is no direction of the brain, these labor class of men I have seen, they, especially these Negroes. He's saying especially the Negroes are stupid. Negroes have no direction of the brain. The Negroes, they capture and rape. Life is unsafe, even in civilized city like New York. He doesn't mention that Indians gang rape women in India. Like, that's like the national pastime in India. He doesn't mention that. He doesn't mention that Indians gang rape their own women on a bus, broad daylight, in the park. And then after she's raped, they take her back to the village and they hang her. He doesn't talk about that. He talks about the Negroes. They capture and rape. He wants to make sure that his disciples understand that the Negroes capture and rape women. But he doesn't mention that in India, Indians are capturing and raping Indian women, left, right, center, up, down, everywhere. He doesn't mention that. He just wants to make sure that his disciples understand that black people are dangerous. They're rapists, they're dangerous. Even in New York City. These black folks, these black people, these Negroes. He didn't even call them Negroes. He calls them black Negroes. And I guess there's white Negroes, but he says the black Negroes, they capture and rape. Morning walk, he says again, it is difficult to walk due to the Negroes. They immediately, whatever you have got, give me. Because that doesn't happen in India. That doesn't happen in India. But again, it's even though it happens in India, that's not important. It's important for his disciples to know that the black people are dangerous. They're angry. They rob you. They rape you. White people don't like them. That's what he's teaching them. That's what he's teaching them. If you call a Negro you black, he will be angry, but he is black. Probably doesn't even understand American slave, 400 years of American slave. What did he learn about American slavery? That he's got this opinion about American blacks and Abraham Lincoln and the Civil. What did he learn? Letter to Satsvarup. Letter to Satsvarup. He says, letter to Satsvarup. Certainly we are not going to say these things about the Negro people publicly. So he wants to make sure that Satsvarup understands what I say about the Negro people, this is not for the public to hear. This is only for you to hear. When I talk about the Negroes, I'm talking to you, not to the public. This is not for public dissemination. I'm teaching you about the blacks and the Negroes. This is not to be repeated for the public to hear. Don't go around telling the public, repeating to the public what I'm saying about the Negroes. He says, certainly we are not going to say these things about the Negro people publicly. We only say these things privately. But then he goes on to say, we have no distinction between black or white. He's so full of shit. Certainly we are not going to say these things about the Negro people publicly. We have no distinction between black or white, or demon or demigod. But at the same time, as long as one is demon, one is demigod, we have to behave in the proper way. So he wants to have it both ways, is basically what he's saying. He's saying we don't care about black or white, but we care about black and white. He's saying, spiritually, we see everybody equal. But when it comes to black and white, we see black and we see white. So he wants to say, he wants to, make the bodily distinction, if you want to use Krishna words. He wants to use the bodily conception of life and then say he's above the bodily conception of life. But because people are on the bodily conception of life, then we have to be on the bodily conception of life, even though we're not on the bodily conception of life. So that's just a bunch of bullshit. You either are or you aren't. You're either going to be spiritual and see everybody equal, or you're not. And you're going to say that black people are this and that, and that they rape and they do that. I mean, you got to be racist. You gotta accept the world as it is and go, look, rapists come in every color. They come in every race. There's crime in every country. It's not like only black people, or black people are the only people doing crime. And if you go to like Norway, there's no crime. Or if you go to Sweden and there's no black people, there's no crime. Or if you go to, it's insane. But Prabhupada is in that same mentality. He's talking about black people raping people in New York City, but he's not talking about how Indians rape their own women in their own country on practically on a daily basis. Gang rape. He doesn't want to address that. So that's not being a spiritual person. Spiritual person is going to say, there's rape everywhere. There's bad people everywhere. There's good people and there's bad people. He's not going to say black people are, obviously he's saying bad shit about the Negroes, and then he's telling Satsarup, don't repeat this. Why are you repeating this? He says, we have no distinction between black or white. But so long as one is black or white, we have to behave in the proper way. He's saying, we have no distinction between black or white, or demon or demigod. But at the same time, so long as one is demon or demigod, or one is black and is white, we have to behave in the proper way. And I don't understand this. Prabhupada's trying to be all yogi-ish, and he's saying, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had no distinction between a tiger and a man. He was so powerful that he could convert even a tiger to dance. But so far as we are concerned, we should not imitate and go to some tiger and try to make him dance. But still, tiger is equally eligible like a man. So you can understand that these talks are not for the public, as they have not got the ability to understand. So basically, we have not got hatred for anyone, but when one is demoniac or atheistic, we should try to avoid their company. So he's trying to say that even though what he's saying is, though, even though it sounds like we are racist, we're not really. He's saying because he says basically we have not got hatred for anyone, but when one is demoniac or atheistic, we should try to avoid their company. He does have hatred for demons and atheists. He says, I kick him in the face. If someone comes and says there's no God, I kick him in the face. Kick him in the face. So that is, now when I read this, and I'm not a devotee, I haven't been a devotee in 12 years. Now when I read this, I read it and I go, none of this shit makes sense. It's all gobbledygook, double speak. It's classic, repeating shit in a way that makes it sound like it's important, or that it's like he's making a point when it's bullshit times 9. This principle we shall follow, but in higher devotional life there is no such distinction. So, are you in a higher devotional life or not? Because you say that you're a guru and you're above the 3 modes and you're this and that and Triyagyan and all of these things, and then you say, well, I'm not. The topmost devotee sees everything in Krishna and Krishna in everything, but you don't. You just said that you make a distinction between demon and demigod and black and white. So he can't even make up his mind as to what he's trying to say. And I know a lot of devotees will go, well, no, he's saying. I can read what he's saying. I'm not blinded by this idea that he's perfect and he makes no mistakes and everything he says is coming from Krishna and that and that and that. Once you take that filter away and you just look at what he's saying, you go, what the fuck is this? Certainly we're not going to say these things about the Negro people publicly. Can you imagine the Dalai Lama or something? Like, something comes out where the Dalai Lama wrote this letter to some guy saying, hey, what I said about the Negroes, man. Don't repeat that in public. Yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine that was on CNN? Racist Dalai Lama letter discovered. Racist letter from the Pope discovered, where the Pope says, "Don't, hey, psh, don't mention what I said about the Negroes." That would be on the news. It would be totally on the news. If Joel Osteen or any of these great preachers, that famous big time preachers, wrote a letter where they were saying, "Hey, don't talk about what I said about the Negroes. I mean, we don't need. Don't say that. Don't repeat that out in public." And you know, and it said we don't have any distinction between black and white, but as long as someone is black and white, we have to have a distinction. People would go, "What the fuck are you saying?" You're trying to this letter. It sounds like you're trying to defend yourself. It sounds like you said some racist things, and now you're trying to defend yourself from those racist things, and it doesn't sound so good. We can see why you didn't want this. If that was about the Pope or any big time head preacher guy of some big, that would be on the news. Racist letter discovered in the Pope's, fell out of the Pope's pocket. They opened it up and read it. It's like, oh my God, this is a racist letter from the Pope. This is a racist letter from Prabhupada about don't say these things about the Negroes publicly, and yet these people are going to march in the Martin Luther King Day parade. Don't tell the people what we really think about them. Go march, but don't make sure you don't mention what we really think about them. How do they get to march in the parade when he says certainly we are not going to say these things about the Negro people publicly. We have no distinction between black or white, demon or demigod, but at the same time, so long as one is a demon or demigod, we have to behave in the proper way. So we have no distinctions between blacks and whites, but as long as there are black and white people, we do have to behave in the proper way, which means if I see a black guy coming, I'm going to cross the street. So, well, anyway, hey, I got to end it here. I don't know how I got on the racism, but like I said, it's all one big stinky, crappy fucking pot full of bullshit. And then wherever you look, you're gonna find this crap. It took me 2 seconds to find all this shit about child marriage, about 11-year-old girls getting married, about Negroes. 2 seconds. Two friggin' seconds. You go to their own webpage. You go to the Hare Krishna's own webpage. You type in Negro on the search thing. And all this racist shit pops up. It's friggin' amazing. And they got the nerve to march in the Martin Luther King Day parade. If I was in LA, I'd go to the Martin Luther King Day. I'd throw shit at them. I'd be like, I would be bullhorn. Like, what are you doing, you pedophiles? Child marriage, raping 11-year-old girls, gurus molesting kids, guy adopting a 9-year-old girl so he can go take her to LA and rape her. It's the most disgusting thing you've ever heard. These Hare Krishnas, do they get any more disgusting than that? I'll adopt you and be your dad, and then he takes her and he rapes her? The fuck, man? This is so fucking disgusting. So fucking disgusting. Alright, it's over. Class is over for today. I can't take any more. I can't take anymore. My head. I can't believe I was in this shit for 20 years. 20 years I was in this shit. It took me 20 years to connect all these dots and figure it all. It took me even more than 20 years. Because I'm still reading and learning stuff about this friggin' cult that I didn't know. It took me 20 years, though, to research and find out all this stuff, connect all the dots and figure out that it's this Prabhupada guy, it's the guru, it's the books, it's the shit he teaches, it's the shit he says. He's the problem, not the gurus, not the people it's not bad people coming into the cult. It's the cult. It's a fucking pedophile machine. Normal people walk in, pedophiles come out the other side. Serious. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Raping little girls behind the stage at the festival. Adopting girls so he can take them and rape them. Becoming a teacher in the school so you can get access to the little boys in the school. These guys, man. Okay, I'm done. Thanks everybody for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Get these videos out there. Let's get them out and pop so everyone can know how disgusting these people are. People need to know. This is not like, hey, I'm protesting Hare Krishna and I'm just talking out of my ass. This shit comes from their own webpage. It comes from their own webpage. You can go find it yourself. You don't need me. But if you like, share, subscribe, and distribute my videos, and hopefully we can get people that can go and you can learn you can go and you can find it yourself. I'm showing you how, I'm showing you where you can go, how to find it. It's all coming from them. All the crap. It's all coming from them. Okay. Thanks everybody. Have a great day, great night, great morning, great afternoon. Have some great luck. And let's see, what do we got here? We got some closing credits maybe.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
I was in the bar for a drink or two. I met a girl named Mary Lou. Her blue jeans were so tight and cut so low. Those jeans were stretched across her butt. On a belt she wore a rabbit's foot, and I couldn't help but see her camel toe. Mary Lou had a camel toe.
Means that และกลับเข้าสู่ My Mental Time BTK1radio.com Whatever, I'll do what I want.
You're listening to Mike's Madhouse on BTK1radio.com.
Worried about God. I'm afraid of what he might do if anything should happen to me.
God, but he's a robot. Without you, what could he do?
There's no limit to what he could do. He could destroy the earth. If anything should happen to me, you must say these words.
Dumalang, video Suzy and ready to Mike's Madhouse, more BKK1radio.com.
And now it's time for the Dumb American on Mike's Madhouse.
Back to dope tunes and stupid talk with White Boy Mike on Mike's Madhouse.